Fuel prices are at record highs, and the demand for electrified vehicles has gone up as a result. But the problem is, there are so many types of electrified vehicles, like you have PHEVs, you have BEVs, you have HEVs, so it can be confusing for the average car buyer. Now in this video, we'll talk about the differences. We'll talk about the actual cost of running based on data from my reviews, and we'll talk about which one is right for you.
Now, in case you're new here, I'm Jaywalkur. I do car reviews. I've reviewed over 500 cars. I've driven over 60 electrified vehicles. And not just quick test drives. Many of these stayed with me for a week or even longer. But I don't own an electrified car. And I haven't invested in home charging or any charging infrastructure. So this isn't coming from someone fully committed to one setup. This is coming from someone who's experienced all of them in real-world conditions. Now, depending on who you ask, everything else is either outdated or wrong, but the reality is a bit more complicated than that. There is no single best electrified powertrain, only what works for your situation. So let's break it down, based on real-world use here in the Philippines. Let's start with HEVs. Hybrids include a lot of vehicle types, but when you say HEV, it usually means it doesn't support external charging. So the engine both drives the wheels and charges the battery. This is the most familiar option. You don't plug it in, the car charges itself while you drive. Now, HEVs can be very fuel efficient. But here's the reality. Hybrids are still dependent on fuel because you can't charge it from an external source. So the engine does most of the work, especially when it comes to charging the battery. So yes, you consume less fuel, but you don't really eliminate your dependence on it. Now, the strongest argument for hybrids is accessibility. If you want to stick to more traditional brands, hybrids are usually your main and sometimes your only electrified option, as Japanese, American, and Korean brands currently don't offer PHEVs. And currently, EV offerings from legacy brands are still very expensive. And within the same brand, they're usually more affordable than plug-in hybrids. So another reason why you would choose an HEV over a PHEV is cost. But if you want to go beyond just reducing fuel consumption and actually start avoiding fuel use altogether, that's where plug-in hybrids come in. Now, before anything else, plug-in hybrids are still hybrids. They still have an engine and an electric motor. The difference is that you can now charge them externally. You can charge them at home or at a public charger. And most modern PHEVs today can do around 100 kilometers on pure electric power. So if your daily driving falls within that range, and you can keep the battery topped up, you can go for days or even weeks without using a single drop of fuel. So in a way, a PHEV lets you live like an EV owner without fully committing to EV ownership. And here's something that people misunderstand. Charging for PHEVs is not required. It is a bonus. Even if you don't plug it in, it still works like a hybrid. So range anxiety is basically not an issue. Now, you'll often hear people say if you don't have home charging, there's no point. But that's not always true. Even when using paid public chargers, running on electricity can still be cheaper than running on fuel, especially with fuel prices today. The point is, home charging is ideal, but it's not the only way to benefit. Now, if you want to remove fuel from the equation completely, then you're looking at full electric vehicles. BEVs or battery electric vehicles are the most straightforward. There is no engine, no fuel, just electricity. And the advantages are obvious. You don't have to lug the dead weight of an engine around. You have much lower maintenance costs since you don't have to maintain the engine. But they do require a different approach. Because EVs don't just change how your car works, they change how you use your car. You start planning your routes more carefully, you think about where and when you can charge, and home charging becomes part of your routine. Now, for a lot of owners, installing a charger at home makes a huge difference. Some even go as far as adding solar panels. It is not required, but it makes EV ownership make a lot more sense long term. So it's not just a different powertrain, it's also a different lifestyle. If your routine supports it, it can be the best ownership experience. If not, it can be a bit limiting.
Okay, now let's talk about real-world running costs. Now, Meralco charges 14 pesos per kilowatt hour, so that's about the rate that you would expect if you charge at home. Now, public charging stations, like the ones supported by Evro, charge about 28.5 pesos per kilowatt hour. So that's how much you would expect to pay if you charge at public charging stations using AC. And fuel currently costs about 90 pesos per liter. That's as of mid-April 2026. Of course, that might change by the time this video is uploaded. Now, just to clarify the methodology, for PHEVs, all figures are measured in EV mode only, not in hybrid mode. This allows a direct comparison with BEVs.
Let's start with the BYD Seagull. Now, this is a small electric vehicle designed as a city-focused EV. In real-world testing, it consumes 6 kilowatt hours every 100 kilometers in the city and 11 kilowatt hours every 100 kilometers on the highway. Now, if you convert that into cost per kilometer, in the city, 6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers means 0.06 kilowatt hours every kilometer. So at home charging rates, 0.06 multiplied by 14 pesos gives us 0.84 pesos per kilometer. At public charging rates of 28.5 pesos, that's 0.06 multiplied by 28.5 pesos. That gives us 1.71 pesos per kilometer. On the highway, it consumes 1.54 pesos per kilometer if you charge at home and 3.14 pesos per kilometer at public charging stations. Next is the BYD Seal 5 in full electric mode. The BYD Seal 5 is a plug-in hybrid, meaning that it can run in hybrid mode and it can also run on pure electricity when charged. In EV mode, it consumes 11 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in the city and 9 kilowatt hours every 100 kilometers on the highway. So in the city, it consumes 1.54 pesos per kilometer at home charging and 3.14 pesos per kilometer at public charging. On the highway, it consumes 1.26 pesos per kilometer at home and 2.57 pesos per kilometer at public charging stations. Now for a larger and more powerful electric SUV, the Tesla Model Y, its consumption is higher due to its size and its performance. So it consumes 11.9 kilowatt hours every 100 kilometers in the city and 15 kilowatt hours every 100 kilometers on the highway. So in the city, that translates to 1.67 pesos per kilometer at home charging and 3.39 pesos per kilometer at public charging stations. On the highway, that becomes 2.10 pesos per kilometer at home and 4.28 pesos per kilometer at public chargers. Now moving to hybrids, the Honda Civic HEV operates at around 19 kpl in the city and 30 kilometers per liter on the highway. Now at 90 pesos per liter, in the city that translates to 4.74 pesos per kilometer, and on the highway, it improves to around 3 pesos per kilometer. Finally, the baseline internal combustion engine vehicle, the Toyota Vios. Its fuel consumption is 11 kilometers per liter in the city and 17 kilometers per liter on the highway. So at 90 pesos per liter, in the city, that's about 8 pesos and 18 centavos per kilometer, and on the highway, it's 5.29 pesos per kilometer. So when you compare everything side by side, a clear pattern emerges. In city driving, BEVs and PHEVs running in EV mode are the cheapest to operate per kilometer. Hybrids sit in the middle, and pure ICE vehicles are the most expensive. In fact, in city conditions, ICE vehicles can cost almost twice as much to run per kilometer compared to hybrids like the Civic, and almost 9.5 times as much as BEVs like the Seagull. But on the highway, that gap begins to tighten, because internal combustion engines operate more efficiently at sustained speeds, and hybrids also improve in highway conditions. So the cost difference between ICE, HEV, and electrified driving becomes less extreme. Before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor.
Introducing the AutoSport Mobility Scooter, the world's most innovative mobility scooter. It folds into a small suitcase size, and it has wheels so you can move it around like a trolley. It separates into two parts. It has leather seats and grips, an illuminated LCD dashboard, enhanced lighting for extra visibility. You can install optional armrests. It's perfect for seniors as it's easy to lift and unfolds in seconds. It has a maximum speed of 10 kph, shock absorbing flat free tires, high ground clearance, advanced braking system, be free to travel anywhere, land, sea, or air. It has 20 kilometers of continuous driving range. Engineered with flair, designed with passion for performance. Be active, be free, be yourself. Atto Sport, moving life.
Now, before we move on, there are a few real-world quirks that you need to understand about each system. With BEVs, the biggest factor is charging. If you're relying purely on public charging, it's not always ideal. EVs and PHEVs have become popular enough that during certain times of day, finding an available charger can be difficult. And not all public chargers are fast chargers. Most are still AC chargers, which can take several hours to give you a meaningful amount of range. From my experience using a standard wall outlet at home, charging overnight may not always be enough, depending on your usage. Going from around 20% to full charge can take roughly 12 to 15 hours. So if you drive long distances in a day, you may still need to top up at a public charger. Having a proper wall charger at home changes things significantly. Charging becomes much faster, usually around 5 to 6 hours for a full charge. Luckily, most brands that sell EVs like BYD, BMW, and VinFast include wall chargers with your purchase. You only have to pay for the installation. So with EVs, your overall experience depends heavily on your access to charging. Now with PHEVs, charging is less of a limitation, because even if your battery runs out, you still have an engine to fall back on. So range anxiety is not really an issue. But here's something that a lot of people don't realize. PHEVs are more sensitive to how you set them up. Unlike EVs and regular hybrids, which mostly manage themselves, PHEVs usually give you more control over how the system operates. You'll have the usual drive modes like Sport, Normal, and Eco, but you also have additional settings like a minimum battery level. So for example, if you set it to 40%, the car will try to maintain that level by using the engine when needed. Some systems also allow you to control how the battery is charged. Some have an intelligent mode where the system behaves more like a hybrid, turning the engine on and off depending on when it's needed. And there's also a more aggressive charging mode where the engine always stays on and revs higher to build up battery charge more quickly. And in this setting, your fuel economy is going to suffer a lot. So with PHEVs, the efficiency you get is not just about the car, not just about the traffic, and not just about the heft of your right foot. It also has a lot to do with your settings. And then you have conventional hybrids. Now these are the simplest to live with. There is no charging involved because you can't plug them in even if you wanted to. You just fuel them up like a normal car, and the system automatically handles everything in the background. So when it comes to real-world usability, each system has its own trade-offs. EVs depend heavily on charging access. PHEVs offer flexibility but require a bit more understanding to get the best efficiency. And hybrids keep things simple at the cost of being dependent on fuel.
Now, there's one important factor that gets brought up a lot when talking about new cars, and that is the cost of maintenance. Now, I need to be very clear here, we don't have exact long-term ownership data for every vehicle in this comparison. So this section is more of a structural overview rather than hard data.
In terms of maintenance complexity, BEVs are mechanically the simplest. So you don't have engine oil changes, no transmission servicing, you have fewer moving parts overall. So maintenance for BEVs is a lot lower. Now the biggest concern people usually bring up is the battery. And yes, the battery is the most expensive single component in the vehicle. But in modern EVs, battery packs are designed to last the usable lifetime of the car under normal driving conditions. Also, they don't typically fail suddenly, they degrade gradually over time. Most manufacturers also offer 8 years of battery warranty, which gives a baseline of protection. And also, battery technology tends to evolve pretty quickly. So in 8 years, theoretically, the cost of battery replacement should also go down. Realistically, battery replacement during normal ownership is uncommon, unless there is damage, defect, or extreme usage conditions. But if it ever does happen outside of warranty, that is still the single most expensive repair item in any EV. So it's low probability but high impact. Now for hybrids and plug-in hybrids, in terms of maintenance complexity, they're actually closer to each other than people assume. Both still have an internal combustion engine, which requires maintenance. So you still deal with engine oil changes, filters, belts, and traditional engine servicing. The main difference is that PHEVs also include a larger battery and a charging port. But interestingly, the charging port itself does not require regular maintenance, and the battery in a PHEV, while larger than a hybrid, still follows the same principle as EVs. It degrades slowly over time rather than failing abruptly. In terms of replacement cost, a PHEV battery should be more expensive than a hybrid battery if you're talking about the same brand, because PHEV batteries are generally just bigger. But then again, these systems are designed for long-term use, and in most real-world cases, they remain within usable efficiency levels even after 8 to 12 years of operation. And then you have traditional ICE vehicles. They are mechanically proven, they are widely understood, and they are relatively straightforward in terms of repairability. But they also require consistent maintenance over time. So when you look at cost of ownership, BEVs simplify maintenance but concentrate risk in one major component. Hybrids and PHEVs spread complexity across two systems, and ICE vehicles distribute cost through continuous mechanical maintenance. So instead of asking which one is better, let's talk about which one fits you better. If you're willing to adapt your lifestyle, if you have access to charging, and your daily routine is predictable, then a full EV makes a lot of sense. It gives you the full electric experience without carrying the extra weight of an engine. Now, if you want to reduce or even eliminate fuel use for daily driving, but still want the flexibility for long trips, if you're not ready to fully commit to EV ownership, or maybe you don't have consistent access to charging, then a PHEV is probably the better fit. It gives you flexibility without the pressure of going fully electric. If you prefer sticking with more established brands, then hybrids still make a lot of sense. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about choosing the most advanced technology, it's about choosing the one that actually works for you every single day.